Coming up on the 70% podcast.
So we have Olivia in the studio with me tonight, and Olivia is my 16-year-old daughter. In addition to that, we have Grace, who is a close friend of Olivia. They've been for how long? You guys been friends anyway, Grace and
Since kindergarten, right?
The thing I don't like today, though, Nate, is I think it's okay to recognize that there might be some kind of mental health issues. However, I don't think that it should define children today. And I think that's where a lot of the school systems because they're allowing the children to internalize this and say, this is who I am.
But I feel like a lot of people are self-diagnosing, and that's taking away from the people who actually have depression or anxiety or all these different issues.
No doubt.
A lot of it is, I'm really sad this week, I might be depressed, and they don't actually go get help or find help, and not everyone can get help. I feel like there's other ways to go around that. I've always been met with obstacles before where I was like, I can't do anything about this, but I've always found a way to go around it, like talking to the guidance counselors at school or something like that.
Right.
Like I feel like there's always an option.
Yeah, I don't want that kind of attention on myself. I'd always want to show the, brighter side of me.
Right. Let's talk about what's being taught in high schools. Now, we had a discussion some time ago, Amy and I, about critical race theory. Do you guys know what that is? You know what critical race theory is, Grace?
In America, I feel like anybody can really get to what they want if they put in the work and put in the effort. I don't think that, you are a great example for that. Like, you grew up in Brooklyn and not in the best environment, and you made it to a realtor now and have a podcast, and
I'm not doing a whole lot. But
well, you're doing so much better.
Right, I'm a lot better than I would have been had I allowed myself to be brainwashed with the fact that because I'm black I couldn't get ahead. Yeah, I agree.
Just listening to another human being without just automatically just not listening anymore and just only thinking the way that you think. Nobody ever nowadays ever can just imagine or ever put themselves in another person's shoes. It's really sad.
The 70% podcast with your host, Amy Alexander and Mike Sewell.
Hey, welcome to the show tonight, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Tonight, we're going to switch things up a little bit. Unfortunately, Amy had some personal issues that she needed to attend to this evening. So we have Olivia in the studio with me tonight, and Olivia is my 16-year-old daughter. In addition to that, we have Grace, who is a close friend of Olivia. They've been for how long? You guys been friends anyway, Grace and
Since kindergarten, right?
Since kindergarten, huh? Okay, so they've been buds for a very long time. You guys just went to Snowball the other day too, huh?
Yeah.
How was that?
It was fun.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably one of the best dances at that high school so far.
Is it because it's you're older now that it's a better dance, or do you think does it have anything to do with age? You were all young and awkward in the 9th grade, so you probably didn't think it was great then, but now you're a little bit older, you got friends, and you're hanging out and stuff like that, so you think it's because of your age, or do you think it's just a better dance all around?
Well, this one had an actual DJ, so I feel like this one was a little bit better, and the second one we went to, it was COVID.
Okay.
So we didn't get any real
So
dancing.
everybody had to stay 6 feet apart?
Yeah, pretty much.
Leave room for Jesus? What do you think, Grace? You thought it was better as well?
Yeah, I definitely thought this was definitely one of the more fun ones that we attended.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you guys had fun. You guys looked cute that night, that's for sure. So I know you both have listened to the show a little bit, and you know that we get into politics, we get into religion, we get into a lot of different things on the show. But tonight we're going to keep it on the lighter side of things. We're going to talk about how great a dad I am. Okay, so That's what we got to talk about that. No, we're not going to talk about that. Maybe we'll touch on that a little bit. But I want to know from you guys, okay? And both of you could chime in together or separately or whatever. But I want to know, in high school today, what are some of the challenges that the Gen Zs are facing in high school today? And I guess you've listened to your parents about how they grew up and things like that, so you kind of know that there is some differences. What do you think are the major differences, and what are the challenges and or pitfalls that you're finding in high school today?
Grace, you want to go first?
Okay, yeah, sure. So I'd say one of the biggest challenges we face is probably having like stigmas and stereotypes around us, and like what group you fit into and who you can and can't talk to and who you can be friends with and who you can't. I mean, I'd say a lot there, everybody's pretty friendly, but I will say there is definitely the stereotypes floating around. And that's just like the hierarchy. You're going to get that in any high school you walk into. And a big difference, I'd say, between when my parents were growing up versus now, I'd say probably back then there was a lot more like bullying and like actual physical abuse. And yeah, a lot of that when they were growing up. And then now I'd say there's like maybe more cyberbullying and probably a lot of mental health issues. Yeah.
Okay, so back when we were in high school or in school, it was more of a physical bullying. Now it's more of a psychological cyber type bullying. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
One thing on what you said, Grace, I don't think that there's more like mental issues going on. I just think that people are becoming more aware of the mental issues that there are because they didn't really talk about it back in our parents' age. And it wasn't really a thing that was brought up to too many people. But yeah, that's just for that.
Yeah. I agree with that. I really do agree with that because I know back when I was growing up, not only was mental illness it was kind of a stigma to talk about that, but even in the family unit, it was keep your business in the household kind of a thing. What about you, Nate? I mean, did you guys experience that?
To her bullying thing, it doesn't end. It used to end like when am I right, Mike? I mean, when we went to school, it at least ended on the weekend. Theirs is 24/7 with the social media.
Right. 24/7.
What we're doing right now,
yep.
It's nonstop.
Yep.
So even on summer vacation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so I feel for you Gen Zers is what I'm saying, Olivia.
I mean, I feel like for summer vacation, it's less drama because you don't see anybody at school unless like they're your friends and like then they're genuinely your friends and you don't talk to anybody else.
And stuff. Yeah. I know that like in Brooklyn, mental illness was not discussed at all. Like it was a taboo to even mention that you have any kind of problem. The thing I don't like today, though, Nate, is I think it's okay to recognize that there might be some kind of mental health issues. However, I don't think that it should define children today, and I think that's where a lot of the school systems or the social workers or what do you call those people in school? The guidance counselors. Yeah, the guidance counselors. I think that's where they're going wrong. Because they're allowing the children to internalize this and say this is who I am.
Correct.
When it's not who you are, it's maybe something that you have to deal with or something that you have to work to overcome. But it doesn't define you. You know what I mean?
It's almost a badge of courage.
Right.
Am I right, Olivia and Grace? I'm posing the question that way because I also have a daughter, Olivia, and she mentioned that some of her friends and all of them, they were trying to reconcile the fact that, okay, one person has some kind of diagnosis, and that became the whole identity, and that's all that was mentioned. It became who they were.
Is that what you guys see in school, Grace?
Yeah, I'd say that people just get so involved and wrapped up in what they think of themselves or what other people think of themselves, and then they just display that, and they just carry with them the whole entire day or whatever. I mean, it just sticks with them forever, and that's just how they come across.
Well, let me ask you a question, and this is to both of you. How do you guys, because both of you seem like well-rounded kids to me, and I'm not just saying that because I've known you since you were knee-high to a grasshopper, Grace, and you're my daughter, but you both seem very mature, you're confident, well-rounded young ladies, and everybody that talks to Olivia says the same thing. I don't even have to mention what she's doing. They're like, oh my God, they're so impressed with her and stuff. So how do you guys not wear those things as a badge of honor, like Nate said, or let anything like that define you? What is it that you're doing differently or has been done for you to help you not fall into that pitfall? You're supposed to say my dad. But no, I mean,
Wow.
Okay. It got a little deep, so I thought I'd throw a little joke in there. No, seriously, Grace, Olivia, let us know, how do you fight against that?
For me, I don't really use mental illness as like something. I'm not like proud of it. I've had some issues with anxiety in the past, and I try not to show it, and like it's just not something I like to portray. I'd rather people see the good in me and like other good qualities that I have. Mm-hmm. I just think that mental illness is not always the best to be, I'm trying to figure out how to put this.
To define you.
Yeah. And not always the best to, for everyone like who isn't close to you or like can't help you. Like, I feel like they have no reason to know.
Okay.
Because they can't do anything.
So with you dealing with anxiety, you'd rather talk to your parents, you'd rather talk to a psychiatrist or something like that, but
or a few friends,
but putting it on display for all your friends to know about it, or your so-called friends or acquaintances, or peers to know about it is not something that you think should be done. Whereas some kids are doing that. Oh, I have depression, or I have blah blah blah. This is who I am.
Sometimes that just helps them. That's their way of coping. Mm-hmm. But I feel like a lot of people are self-diagnosing, and that's taking away from the people who actually have depression or anxiety or all these different issues. No doubt. So I feel like a lot of it is, oh, I'm really sad this week, I might be depressed, and they don't actually go get help or find help, and not everyone can get help, but I feel like there's other ways to go around that. I've been met with obstacles before where I was like, I can't do anything about this, but I've always found a way to go around it, like talking to the guidance counselors at school or something like that. Right. Like I feel like there's always an option.
Grace?
Yeah, I'd definitely say, if like I need help, something with it, like I know who to go to, and I wouldn't open my mouth around somebody who I know isn't going to necessarily help me. So it's like you shouldn't really take criticism from somebody who isn't going to help you, Mm-hmm. And definitely just finding your group of people that you can, say what's happening. But I also wouldn't necessarily want to display myself as somebody like that. I don't want that kind of attention on myself. I'd always want to show the, brighter side of me.
Right. So have you guys ever been bullied? I don't think you've ever come home to me saying that you were being bullied per se. You've had run-ins with other children, but not necessarily bullied where you were scared or didn't feel safe or anything like that. Have you ever had anything like that happen? Go ahead, Grace.
I mean, I don't think I've ever like had an incident where I'm like, yeah, that was definitely like somebody bullying me, Right. I mean, I have heard, there's rumors that get spread around about everybody, that just happens. Yeah. But I wouldn't say there was one incident where that for sure was bullying,
Right. So there was no constant picking on you or bullying or anything of that nature going on in high school. No. Okay, that's good. Well, at least you guys didn't have to deal with that kind of stuff.
And I feel like our school is kind of like really conservative.
Okay.
So when the bullying happens, it's more like, oh, like stuff happens between those people, and then you just leave each other alone and avoid each other and give dirty looks in the hall and just move on. Like
That's how adults do it.
It happened down in the studio just now.
Right. Wow. Let's switch gears real quick here. Let's talk about what's being taught in high schools. Now, we had a discussion some time ago, Amy and I, about critical race theory. Do you guys know what that is? You know what critical race theory is, Grace?
Yeah.
Okay, and Olivia, you know what that is? Okay, so is critical race theory being taught in your high school?
Grace?
I wouldn't. Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, I don't think so. Like, I don't notice it.
Okay.
I could see how eventually in the future they could possibly start leading to it, but as of right now, no, it's not being taught.
See, I thought the same thing until, what was it, just last week, my English teacher actually had us read a book called Dear Martin.
Okay.
And it was a book on a young man growing up in New York, and he, not you, and he was a young black man, and his best friend had gotten shot. And
It's called African American today, by the way, just to let you know.
Please. Anyway,
Sorry.
we were going on about like the issues of the book and how they relate to today's society, and a lot of my classmates were saying how it was like black people can't get as much as white people can.
Okay.
And it was just really, it opened my eyes because I never saw it before until we read this book, and I was just like,
Okay.
wow.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you guys read the book. It was just a book about a young black man growing up in the inner city and what he had to go through, correct?
Yes.
Okay, in order to become successful, or?
Yeah, he was in a high school that was a boarding high school, and he was on his way to Yale, I think the school was, and it was basically just the story of him and how his best friend got shot and like what happened after that, and like who he was talking to.
Okay. So the kids in your school feel as though it pulled at their heartstrings.
Yeah.
And it made them feel as though black people in America today have a harder time getting ahead or moving ahead than white people. Is that correct?
That was what the discussion was.
That's what it leaned
headed
towards.
toward, yeah.
Okay. And what are your thoughts about that?
I feel like anybody in America, I feel like anybody can really get to what they want if they put in the work and put in the effort. I don't think that, like, you are a great example for that. Like, you grew up in Brooklyn and not in the best environment, and you made it to a realtor now and have a podcast, and
I'm not doing a whole lot. But
well, you're doing so much better.
I'm a lot better than I would have been had I allowed myself to be brainwashed with the fact that because I'm black I couldn't get ahead. Yeah. I agree. But here's the thing. A good friend of mine told me that, and she made me open my eyes to this, that just because I have the, of a better word right now, let's say ability to change the circumstances in my life, that doesn't mean everybody has that capability. Some people are not as, I was blessed with being able to be intelligent, okay? Even though I spent 3 years in the 9th grade, dropped out of high school, got a GED, I still went on to get a marketing degree, and associates in marketing and a bachelor's in business in my 30s. So I was blessed intellectually, so I was able to start moving in those directions. But not everybody has that level of intellect to be able to move that way. You know what I mean?
I disagree.
Okay.
I think.
What are your thoughts, Grace? Let's get Grace in on this real quick.
What are you asking again?
Critical race theory. Olivia was reading she read a book in school, and then the children in school, the Caucasian children in school, felt as though black people were having a harder time in America getting ahead than white people. What are your thoughts on that particular subject?
I mean, I guess I would agree with that because I believe that, you know, per se, I guess the government may kind of they kind of just say it over and over again until you believe it, that you could just say that black people can't really get ahead, and then they start maybe like giving out, I don't want to sound one-sided or anything, but they might like give out free handouts, and then that kind of enables them to actually get ahead. I believe everybody is given an equal chance, an opportunity to make it in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see how if you kind of get brainwashed or believe one side, then you could be set back because you are being given stuff and not necessarily having to work for anything. Whereas somebody who works just from the ground up,
right,
and just, you know, puts their head to the grindstone, you know, they would really come out on top.
Right. It sounds
for working for themselves.
It sounds like you read some of Thomas Sowell. If you haven't, you should. It's the same last name as ours, except it's Sowell rather than Sewell. His name is Thomas Sowell. But that's one of his thoughts. A school of thoughts is that when you continue to give people stuff, they become more and more lazy rather than teaching them how to get it. And so. Right. And so that's why, and I'm of the same opinion. I don't think that I think there are circumstances where people can't get ahead. And one of the things that we just talked about is mental illness. So if you're mentally and or physically incapable of doing it, but then there's also people out there that don't want to. Now that goes on to the equity versus equality argument. There's some people that don't want to have more than what they have. They don't mind going to work for McDonald's. Not that there's anything wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with it. Okay, so don't think that I'm speaking negative about that. But they don't mind going to work for McDonald's every day, coming home, watching television, hanging out with their friends on the weekend, and just kind of chilling. And there's nothing wrong with people having that kind of life if that's what makes them happy. However, in my opinion, if you truly want to grab a piece of the pie, you want to grab a piece of the American dream, per se, and I'm saying that in quotations because
the new American dream.
Everybody's dream is different, So, what do you mean by that, the new American dream?
Well, the old American dream used to be like a kid, a dog, a house, a husband, cookie cutter house, white picket fence. Yep. Mm-hmm. So that used to be the American dream, and now it's like wealth and
everybody wants to be in G5s.
Yeah.
A lot of billionaires are using the tax laws to their advantage.
Oh. And
because they're using it to their advantage, they're not paying what most people consider their fair share of tax dollars to the American economy. However, in my opinion, I think, well, first off, if I was a billionaire, I would take advantage of the tax laws myself. I would make sure, that I took advantage of those tax laws. I would have somebody in place just to make sure I took it, just like they do, So I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think that's a bad thing. Where I have a problem is I don't like greed. I just don't like greed. At what point is enough? At what point do you get in your riches that you say, okay, we need to, like when I was telling you guys about our trip to California, when we seen all the homeless people on both sides of the street, literally sleeping in campers and tents and cars on both sides of the street for miles.
Yeah, but we've seen that for years since since I was young, we went to Georgia and they were all lined up underneath the bridges.
Not
and stuff.
that bad. I mean, it was bad enough for me to just shake my head at it. Not that bad. We've seen, people, looking for handouts and stuff like that. However, or washing windows or whatever. But I mean, how many billionaires do you have in California? We can't even count them. Okay, and to have that happen in California with all of these billionaires, you're telling me they can't come together and set up a program, not to give these people anything, but to help them help themselves? Really? I mean, you're smart enough to go to outer space, but you're not smart enough to put together a specific program that's going to be able to help people not have to live in a trailer or whatever. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. How do you, as Gen Zs, how do you guys feel about them? And I'm doing this in quotations, not paying their fair share.
I think.
Or do you even think about it? If you don't think about it, that's fine too.
It's not really something that I pay much attention to. I feel like they're people just as much as we are. Just because they have money doesn't mean that they should be paying more than we do.
If you look at Elon Musk on the taxes that he pays, even if he pays 10%, that's still a lot more than what we're paying, or 5% or 2%. That's still a heck of a lot more than what any American person is paying. It just happens to be a lower percentage. So we're talking about percentage. We're taxed at 35% or something like that, depending on your tax bracket. But most people are in that the 25 to 40% tax bracket, okay? And that's what we're being taxed at. However, Elon Musk is being taxed at 10%, 15% or something like that.
But he has so much more money. It's still the same amount if you look at it. We're getting taxed 35%, but if has that much money, then...
So my 35% is $10,000 a year. Elon Musk 10% is $2 billion a year. You know what I mean? It's not a comparison.
I don't pay much attention to it, but just hearing that the percentages aren't the same, I guess that just makes no sense to me. Regardless of how much money you make in a year, I guess that wouldn't really make much sense as why, especially the richer people would be like at a lower percentage. Like I get their percentage is more money than us, but I guess that wouldn't really make much sense to me as to why they'd be taxed at a lower percentage. Everybody works for their money, of course, but I'm not going to say we work harder, but money doesn't come as easier to us as a billionaire would, and taxing lower just does not make sense.
I feel like even if they did get taxed the same percentage, what is the government doing with that money? Are they putting it towards those homeless shelters? Are they putting it towards those other things that are necessary?
Right.
I don't feel either way, it's not going to important things that it needs to be going to, or as much as it should be going to those things.
And that's a very good question. What is the government doing with our money? So let's switch gears real quick, since that's a good segue into politics. What do you guys look at politics? Do you understand what's going on in politics? Do you even have a political class in school or anything like that? Are they teaching you about sociology or not sociology? What do you call it?
There's a social problems class that I'm taking this upcoming semester, so I'll know more about it. But I would say I'm pretty in tune with what's happening.
Okay, so tell us where you fall in your political beliefs and thoughts.
Well, oh boy. That's a broad question, I guess. Could you narrow that down a little bit?
Well, what do you think about our the political climate today?
What do you mean by political climate?
What do you think about our president and our voting laws and the way we vote? Do you think your vote counts?
Absolutely not. Nope. Yeah. I mean, with this past election and all the mail-ins, that I guess, I don't know if this is going the right direction or not, but with all the, with all the mail-in ballots and how everything was so screwed up with COVID the past couple of years, I would say that was not very fair. And as far as the present, I don't know. Well, I guess for the conservative and liberal, I guess I'd say that they just keep on drifting apart. Whereas it used to be they would, they could generally find a solution, not necessarily agree, but they could generally find a solution and just fight about the little things. Where now it's like two polar opposites as to what everybody believes and thinks is important, and that there's no way to contract and work something out.
So this is trickling down to you guys. You guys are seeing that there's no partisanship there at all in the government, huh, Olivia?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no.
You don't have much to say about that?
No, I don't have much to say. I'm not very into politics too much. I'll look into it around like election time,
right?
And dip my toes in the water, but I just don't like getting into it because I feel like it's just a bunch of drama, and it's just like it's important, but also a lot of it is just quite unnecessary, in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, I don't even remember the last time I watched the news because it's just more COVID stats, and more other things that don't really appeal to me to be that important. I'm not saying COVID isn't important, but
that's something Amy and I are going to have to talk about next time. Maybe we're being inundated with all this information and bombarded with all this information so that we do turn off our televisions and don't figure out what's going on or how it's going on and stay separated, Do you feel like like as a country, do you feel like we're being divided on different topics? So let's say, gender, race, religion, COVID, mask or non-mask. Do you feel like we're being divided? Like, do you feel like it's being done purposely, or this is just what's happening? And who would be the driving force of that if it's being done purposely? What are your thoughts? That's a big question. Let's chop it. Let's break it down a little bit. So let's say, do you feel that the country is just completely polarized with division?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. When it comes to like mask or no mask or religion and stuff like that, do you feel that there's a big, divide there, a big wedge?
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
I think there is too. I feel like it's all very stereotyped too. Okay, so people who are, this is just the stereotypes like that I've heard and stuff. People who are like LGBTQ plus are generally more accepting to people of color and otherwise, as far as not being racist, but like just more accepting to all those things, as well as the other way around. And then generally those people are categorized as liberals or Democrats, as like it's a bad thing. And then people who are like not accepting of those things and just totally disagree with the LGBTQ community are generally, quote, Republicans, and that's a bad thing too. Like, and then the people who are wearing masks are, quote, like Democrats and whatever, and it's just they're being pitted against each other, and each category is like bad for some reason.
Yeah. I could hear the frustration in your voice about that. You seem really frustrated about all the division and stuff like that. So it's even trickling down, because Amy and I talked about it a few times, here on the show. But it's even trickling down to the Gen Zs. It's hard. I mean, these kids shouldn't have to think about stuff like that.
Well, I think that when it comes to like those different topics, it's not bad to talk about or have your disagreements, but to continue to fight about it and just not come up with solutions. Like, obviously some things there isn't solutions for, like accepting someone as LGBTQ or something. Like, there's not really a solution. If you don't agree with it, you don't agree with it, or if you do, you do. But just not judging those people for who they are. Like, I know Grace, when I first came out, she wasn't like very okay with it, but she never treated me any differently. She never said, oh no, you can't be my friend because you're bi. Like, you can't do that. Like, we stayed the same. We have our disagreements. Like, it never really caused a wedge between us just because I'm bi. And
I would 100% agree with Olivia. Yeah. I'd say the biggest thing that we all struggle with is just listening to another human being without just automatically just not listening anymore and just only thinking the way that you think. Nobody ever nowadays ever can just imagine or ever put themselves in another person's shoes. That, I mean, it's really sad. Just that, I don't even know.
that
Like,
they're so close-minded.
everybody just has a train of thought and they just go in that direction and they never listen to anybody else, and they're just like brainwashed that nothing could ever be a possible, no other idea could be a possibility as to, hey, maybe this is, right, or anything of that sort. It's just everybody thinks the way they think and just shuts out anybody who disagrees with them because they don't want to hear it. All they want to hear is that they're right.
Right.
And they just want to listen to people that are going to tell them that they're right and that they're doing it right.
That's even the same way with religion, though. Christianity is, being beat down a lot, too.
Yeah. There's so many different ideas as to who's right on that.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm a Christian, and and I hear it all the time that, if you're a Christian, then I don't like you because you think this way, you think that way. And in my opinion, a true Christian is the person that's able to talk and have a conversation with anybody and not judge them, because it's not my place to judge. I'm going to live my life a certain way, and I don't want my rights infringed upon. And I will allow you to live your life the way you want. And I'm not going to infringe upon your rights. So.
But also being able to have those conversations and having people being able to possibly open your mind to more than just your one. Yeah.
I was never closed-minded.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Sure.
All right, we won't get into that tonight. Well, thanks, ladies. I do appreciate you coming out tonight and having this conversation with us. This is the 70% podcast. Thank you very much for joining us. Please like, share, and subscribe. And on that note, you guys have a lovely evening.
Come on, Mike, say it. Say the legendary line.
I can't say it without Amy.
Okay, should we not say it?
No, you have to say it.
Okay. No doubt.
Enjoy.